Hi there, it's Gary here at My Tribe Insurance, and today I'm going to cover how you can find the best health insurance policy in the UK. But before we jump into this, it's important to say that the best health insurance for you will be different to the next person. So it's always wise to request a comparison quote with our website, and an experienced broker will provide you with a personalised market review. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, the health insurance market in the UK is made up of, in fact, numerous insurers, and some of which you may have already heard of, such as Bupa, AXA, Saga, Vitality and Aviva, and others that you might not have heard of, like WPA, the Exeter and Freedom. Now, these insurers can be broken down into two camps. That's mutual companies, which don't have shareholders and are owned by their customers, and then we've got commercial companies which do have shareholders. Now, examples of mutual companies include Bupa, the Exeter and WPA, and some of the commercial insurers are AXA Health, Vitality, Aviva, Saga and Freedom. Now, while it's impossible to say which type is better overall, the mutuals have an advantage in that they're free to reinvest profits into the business to benefit members. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're always better, but this difference often affects how they actually do business. So let's look now at what to look out for when comparing policies. So in this section, we're going to dig into what you should consider when looking for the best health insurance policy. Now again, what's best for you will depend on your budget, your requirements, and of course much more. So it really is always worth requesting a quote via our website and getting a personalised comparison from an experienced broker. Now, a word of warning about online price comparisons. Now, of course, we've all become pretty accustomed to comparing things online, from car insurance and broadband to bicycles and pet food, right? You name it. I mean, you can probably compare it in just a matter of minutes, anything you can think of, right? In fact, you know what, I'm thinking about it, I'm actually struggling to think of anything you can't actually compare online. Can you think of anything? This is going to bug me now. So if you can think of anything, write it in the comments below and put me out of my misery. That's really going to bug me now. So the trouble with comparing health insurance is that it's complicated. You know, there are so many things to consider, and online price comparisons often just oversimplify and prioritize price over benefits. So, for example, each insurer will treat claims differently. With some, your claims won't affect your renewal premiums. With others, well, they will, and often quite significantly. Now, while the year one price might look good online, there's typically very little information about what happens in year two and beyond. And as you're likely going to claim at some point, knowing what happens is vital. So that's just one example. And there are many more that are easy to miss when using oversimplified online comparisons. It's why we always say that you really should speak with a health insurance broker that knows their stuff really well before you decide. So they're not going to charge you for this service, and you get exactly the same price as you would by going direct to the insurers, but with the benefit of free expert advice and support to avoid some of those many pitfalls. Now, if you do request a quote via our website, a My Tribe vetted broker will contact you, or by all means you can search online for one yourself. Now, one of the primary reasons people take out health insurance is to protect themselves or their families from the risk of cancer. Now, all leading insurers know this, so their core policies almost always include extensive cancer cover. But that said, the cover offered does tend to differ, and seeing that cancer is a big concern for many of us, it really is worth investing a little bit of time reading the small print of what's included and what's not before choosing to go with whichever company you decide. All the insurers produce what are called IPID documents that are a summary of precisely what is and is not covered with each. Now, if you have a short list of 2 or 3 insurers and policies, we really do recommend downloading their IPIDs and looking at them side by side. Now, spending an hour or so looking at these documents before you get a policy could be the difference between having access to the vital treatment you need or it being excluded. So it really is worth investing just a little bit of time on this. So let's look now at guided versus non-guided consultant lists. Now, a relatively new option offered by insurers is that you can restrict your medical specialist access to a pre-approved pool in return for a premium reduction of around 20% on your premiums. Now, many people do opt for this as it saves a chunk of money and can make finding a private consultant easier. Now, this is a particularly good option as you get a bit older and the cost of health insurance goes up, as you can keep other options on your policy and introduce this restriction to reduce costs. But it's 20% cheaper, so we should really think about what exactly you're giving up. And that is the freedom to use any private medical specialist in the UK. Now, for many, this may not be very important, but for some looking for the best coverage, it is a fairly significant restriction. So if, for example, you've got a rare medical condition, is the renowned leader in the field available to you? Now, it's impossible to answer without knowing what type of condition and the insurer that you're with, but if you take one thing from this section, it really should be that guided consultants equals less choice for reduced premiums. As you know, as more and more people take out health insurance, the insurers have to deal with more customers, more claims, and of course more administration. Now, we've seen that this explosive growth in the past couple of years really has put a strain on some providers, with call waiting times to the claims department being a particular pain point for some. Now, the best way to protect yourself from this is really just to look at customer reviews, and most of these can be found on Trustpilot or FIFO. Now, we all know, don't we, that there's always going to be some unhappy customers, but by looking at customer reviews, you can quickly see if there's a trend of complaints or if, on the whole, things seem to be looking positive, right? So at the time of recording, this information isn't included on comparison websites, and it really should be, in my opinion. So do spend a little bit of time doing your own research. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is very easy to go for what looks like the cheapest policy and then get burnt a few years later when you come to make a claim. See, with health insurance, you will most likely make a claim at some point. It may not be immediately, but it is likely to happen. So what happens when you make a claim, and how does it affect your renewal premiums? Now, with some insurers, you'll see that your premiums increase, sometimes substantially, because of your claims. Now, the trouble you have at this point is that switching is pretty challenging, because if you move, the medical conditions associated with those claims will be excluded from your new policy. So, of course, you're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. You either have to stump up the extra to keep the cover with your existing provider, switch, or even cancel and reduce the coverage. Now, several insurers offer what's commonly called community rated schemes, which means the claims of everyone in your policy pool affect your renewal premiums, not yours individually. Now, yes, you'll often pay more for this, but it can help to avoid the situation I've just mentioned. Now, of course, if all of the insurer's members make a lot of claims in a particular year, or in fact the cost of treatment rockets, then your premiums could still rise quickly, but you're spreading your risk across a pool of members, and you won't need to think about, how will this cancer claim affect what I'm paying next year. So, to recap, our advice to find the best health insurance is to speak with a broker. Now, they're going to save you time and potentially money and help to ensure that you get the right policy. Now, alongside this, do your own research and look at the provider's websites, the reviews, and the IPID documents so you know exactly what you're signing up for. To get a personalised comparison quote, please use the link in the description to visit our website. Now, we're going to put you in touch with a fully vetted and experienced broker who's going to help you to get the best cover. And that is just about it for today. We will see you next time.